Hi, I'm John Waterhouse. Welcome to our Summer Prosperity Review. And yes, summer's over, but our class is going a little bit longer. We have, I believe, two more classes after this one. So if have you been on all along? Thank you for joining us again. And if this is your first time on, we welcome you also. So what you can do if you're joining this class or haven't been doing this is from the homepage of our website, there is a place to register for our increased income program. And right below that, there's a button. It's quite wide and narrow button that shows you the increased income prosperity affirmation or treatment, I should say. And that's something that we offer everybody in this class. And those that have been a part of it have had amazing results. So I'm sure that you want to be a part of everything that this class would offer if you're taking the time to watch it here. So what I want to invite you to do is download that document, which has on it the prosperity treatment that we say every day. And Barbara and I, when someone joins our increased income program, we add them to the file that contains everybody's registration. And Barbara and I put our hands on it, on top of it and underneath it, and we hold it and we do this treatment together aloud, and we treat for all the success that those who are in this program can have. And we treat knowing the truth for each one. And we do the same prosperity treatment that we ask you to do. So what I want to do now is do that treatment and invite you to join me. And we always include our individual names in it. So if you'll say that with me, and if you don't have it, again, download it, and you'll likely hear it again before too long in the class. So here we go. I, John, know that God is the source of all supply, and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith knowing, now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is. It's just like that. So thank you again for being here. Enjoy the class. I'll see you at the end.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes. Are you ready to prosper?
Yes.
Are you ready to be rich?
Oh, yes.
Are you ready to have more money than you know what to do?
Yes.
Are you ready to go where you want to go?
Yes.
Buy what you want to buy?
Yes.
Do what you want to do?
Yes.
Be who you were meant to be?
Yes.
Everybody up off your seats and we'll do our treatment for prosperity together aloud.
I firmly know that God is the source of all supply and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word, which I speak in faith knowing, now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is.
Again.
I firmly know that God is the source of all supply, and that money is God in action. perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word which I speak in faith knowing now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is.
One for the road.
I praise and know that God is the source of all supply, and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word which I speak in faith knowing now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is.
Hi, I'm John. I'm very bright.
Yes, you are.
Keep your eyes up here, okay? All right. I want to add a persistence story. I actually like the word perseverance. There's something noble about persevering through things. This is one of my favorites. It was from Edwin Gaines. She was talking about a woman that wanted to attend one of her cruises. She was going to cruise with a bunch of people. She had a number of seats available, or cabins or whatever. And this person came up to her hearing about that and said, "Edwina, I'm going on that trip with you." And she said, "Well, it's getting full. You better get after it." And she said, "Okay." And she told Edwina that she didn't have money to pay for it. It was several $1,000s, but she was going. And, you know, Edwin tapped her on the head and said, "Thank you, good for you," you know, and off they went. So a few months later, she heard from the lady again, saying that she had made her plane reservation to get to the cruise line that they were going on. And Edwin said, "Well, I have to tell you, I don't have any spaces for you." And the woman said, "Well, you will." and just proceeded along. And she said, "Well, do you have the money?" "No, I haven't really worked that out, but I'm definitely going." "Okay, well, all the best to you." And as a couple of days before it was actually set up and they were ready to leave, another member that was going called and said, "Edwin, I really wanted to go on this thing, but I've got family business I've got to go tend to, and why don't you find somebody to take my spot, and I'll just pay for it." Edwin had some conversations to have with this woman, you know, because obviously she had that level of persistence that Barbara was talking about setting your goals, saying you're going. Don't listen, don't get caught up in anything that would take it away. Own it and make it happen. Even in the presence of the great Edwin Gaines. Amazing. Yeah. Well, that's my story. Anyway, so I too, like Barbara, am delighted with the categories, the secrets that are mine to share with you tonight. And as we have done in my part each week, I have lots to share, lots of lists. I have lists inside of lists. It could go on for a while, but that's why Barbara let me start earlier in the second half. So here we go. Goodwill and friendship. That's our first one that we're going to talk about. And this idea of goodwill and friendship, these are two both very intangible things. You can't measure it. You can't document it. It's just what's there. It's energetic is what it is. So don't underestimate it because you can't physically touch it or count it or in some way assess it. You still know it's there. And there's something real about it. And these two ideas are similar, yet they have their own way. Goodwill is usually in relationship to a profession or an organization or something, and it means that there's been exchanges of energy such that the organization or the profession has value in the way people see them. And what a wonderful thing. So how do you build that up? What is it? What are the characteristics you would want to build up? Fenwick tells some wonderful stories in there, but how do we get this to a place where it's pragmatic in approaching this? Where we can actually know that there are certain things we can do that are going to really pay off for us and create goodwill. And friendship on a personal, professional level. You know, friendship is an entire conversation unto itself. So we're going to start with goodwill. We're going to talk about how that works and what it is that makes it work. So these are some practices that will develop goodwill. Now, Fenwick gave us this list. So it's not a fresh list, but he called them principles, and that's fine. But to me, a principle is worthless if you don't practice it, if you don't find a way to put it into action. So to be pragmatic with this, we're going to talk about practices, even though these are Fenwick's ideas. And I think there are 6 of them. We'll see. But we're going to start with the very first one, and that's honesty. Honesty has incredible value in creating goodwill. I want you to know that doing anything other than being honest in a business setting tends not to work and can end relationships instantly. It's also in relationships, one-on-one relationships. Honesty is an absolute essential. Now, anybody here ever lied? Okay, let's do it the other way. How many of you have never told a lie in your entire life?
Never what?
Told a lie. I got no takers on that, so obviously we're all in the same situation. There are times where we use this thing called deceit or lying, probably to make ourselves look better or to keep ourselves out of trouble. I had situations when I was a kid where I tried lying to my mother. Most of the time it worked. There was that one time, though, where I told her the truth and she didn't believe me. And she was into corporal punishment. So it was an interesting thing. So to get the corporal punishment to stop, I lied. But that was just one of those things, that we go through in life. We have to learn about this and how to monitor ourselves and to see what comes out of our mouths. Little children will tell you they didn't do it. And everybody knows they did it, whatever it is. Yeah. No, I didn't take it. I didn't do that. It's this thing of wanting to get out of trouble and wanting to not look bad. But it's a really low-level game. It doesn't take a lot of thinking to lie. It comes pretty natural to the human species. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we find it very natural and habitual to tell the truth. Why would we do that? Well, one reason is it makes for so much easier life for all of us. Well, we don't have to remember what we said to who. To keep the juggling of our lives alive. And some people live that way, You hear them every so often in business where somebody just, it's a Ponzi scheme or it's some kind of fraudulent idea and they're out promoting it as though, it's the greatest thing in the world, and it's not true. I don't think people get away with that stuff. Who knows? I haven't measured everybody to know everybody that was dishonest in business, but boy, when you hear the stories of how people got caught, it's like, how could they think that wasn't going to happen? So the idea of being honest really is just makes life easier, but it also creates a sense of character, so that people that do business with you or have a relationship with you know that what you say is so. That doesn't come automatically. Some of us can be skeptical and go, well, I hear what you're saying, but that doesn't really work for me. In those cases, who knows if that person is actually lying or if they're just misinformed, but it depends on the circumstances. But the idea that what comes out of your mouth, what you share with people, what you write to people, is accurate, is important, because it reflects on who you are. It reflects on how you live your life. It's important because we use it to make our lives functional. one thing that my Native American teacher, Rocking Bear, talked about was impeccability. That's a high, lofty word. I think it aligns in many ways with the idea of integrity. And the way he would describe impeccability was he would say it's when what you think and what you say and what you do all match up. They're the same thing. Now, no one can really know what you're thinking, but people can hear what you say and see what you do. And if those two don't line up, they'll call you on it. Nobody can know what you're thinking, though. So it really is self-monitoring to know if you're being honest with yourself about what's going on in your life. And really, the most heinous form of lying is when we lie to ourselves. Because then there's no sense of reality in that. So how honest can we be with ourselves? And when we take the time to do that, to be honest, to be clear, I used a quote on Sunday from Gary Zukav, and I don't have it with me, but the essence of it was, stop focusing everything on winning and focus on what's going on inside of you. Focus on who you are, what you've brought to the world, but with your character, with your presence. Let that be the guiding force, rather than wins and losses. And that's a good one for me, because I love to win. I'm ridiculous about wanting to win. And my wife laughs because she knows I'm being honest. So actually, letting that being secondary has been an unfoldment for me. I remember when I was not elected spiritual leader of our international organization, there were two at the time, of one of them, I felt terrible at first, but then I realized over not a very long period of time, over a matter of months, that this was a better path. I had things to do that I wouldn't have been able to do if I had been elected to that position. So it was a very powerful notion for me that winning wasn't that important. And you know, if you're meant to win something, you'll win it. And if you're not, you won't. So it's not like there's some higher calling that will make you defeat other people. And it's funny how so many cultures do that in war. They go to war believing that they are the righteous ones and they can only win. And then they come back, you know, crippled and broken and having to deal with all of that. So it's not about winning. It's about understanding who you are. That's really the basic and predominant thing I think that we can get from the idea of being honest with ourselves, honest about who we are in the world. Not just speaking facts, but actually having a sense of who you are in the world and living from that understanding. That's being honest with yourself. And by being honest with yourself, it becomes really natural to be honest with other people. So don't underestimate the value of this idea of honesty. It sounds almost trite at times, and it's not. It's essential to a high-level character. Yes, Jane?
Yeah, I have a close friend, relative, and he's got a lie. I mean, he can't tell the truth from a lie, so he lives in a whole world of his own invention.
Yeah, that's sad, and I'm sure there's mental illness that he's working on. So that, you know, that's not a functional level. At that point, rather than lies, maybe it's illusions or delusions.
Yeah.
You know.
So you can't say, you can't tell him, no, don't.
And you shouldn't, because I mean, he's not in our class, so you know.
No,
but you are, and you got it. But yes, there are examples like that of people that just have emotional and mental issues and can't decipher between truth and fallacy. Okay, and then that's okay, but that's, you know, fortunately, I'm looking around the room, you are high-functioning people. I'm grateful to be working with you and not with folks that have to go through that, because drugs are involved, and I don't want to do that. Anyway, back to our idea of honesty. I really think I've said enough about that, and so let's look at what I did. No, obviously, someone else has something to say. Thomas Jefferson. This is very poetic, but I loved it. Honesty is the first chapter of the Book of Wisdom. You know, so obviously, another one. We're going to talk about presidents. Abraham Lincoln, who many people think is the greatest leader of his, of an entire century, by far. He was called Honest Abe, because that was a character aspect that was important to him. And there were his colleagues in law and such, there are many quotes where he said it's better to be honest. If you can't be an honest lawyer, then it's better to be honest and not be a lawyer. You know? Interesting thoughts. Okay, let's talk about courtesy and respectfulness. Our writer, whose name just fled out of my head, Fenwick, thank you, called that section courtesy, or was talking about being courteous. But to me, I can't separate courteousness and respectfulness. And I have found in my life that when I fall away from this ability to be courteous and respectful, that what happens is I get that kind of garbage back. You know, it's like garbage in, garbage out. So it doesn't work for me. So I've found it very valuable, maybe even to go a little further than most people with being courteous and respectful in situations. Because there are times when I've been in situations and a teacher is teaching something and Barbara is not one of these people. Or somebody is teaching something that I absolutely disagree with. But they're standing in front of the room, I'm not. So to challenge somebody in that circumstance doesn't work for me. But what it does is it reminds me what I do believe and what works for me. And it strengthens my resolve around that. So it's not always about jumping on somebody when you have a difference of opinion with them. Sometimes it just doesn't matter, as long as you know who you are. And everyone else has that same opportunity as well. But I have several things that I wanted to say about courtesy and respectfulness. In fact, I think I've got a list inside the list. So we're going to look at this in two ways, and it kind of comes from a business perspective, but I want to talk about how we are courteous and respectful on our phone conversations. So we start with the list inside the list. Whoa! Okay, we're going to do all these relatively quickly here. Simple courtesies to strengthen your goodwill with people on the phone. Be efficient and friendly. Be efficient and friendly. The one point of efficiency, and Barbara will love this, is to always answer the phone by the second ring. If you're going to answer your phone, if you're not going to answer your phone, that's fine. But if you're going to answer your phone, don't let it go on and on. Especially if you're in a professional setting, in a business setting, in an office setting. Have a system where the phone gets answered. Now, there are things that make that complicated, like if the person answering the phone is also dealing with walk-up conversations with people, and they leave a conversation they're engaged in to answer the phone and go over here and do this. That too lacks courtesy. So that's a system issue, though, not an individual issue. People should be educated as to how to do that in a professional setting. So the idea of getting to the phone quickly is an efficient way to let someone know that their call matters. Oops, I'm going too fast now. Actively listen to actively listen to effectively respond. That's it. Actively listen. How many times in our lives is someone talking to us and we are organizing our response and we've stopped listening to them? So they can say something directly counter to the thing you're about to offer, but you're not thinking about it because you're ready to tell them what you know, how it works, what's going on. Without listening, we don't know how to help, how to support. We don't know what needs to get done. So if you're on the phone with someone and your intention is to be helpful to them, either they're a client, they could be a friend, it doesn't really matter, but if they're talking to you, listen. Shut down your mouth and your mind and pay attention to what they're saying. And then you'll know what you need to respond with. It's like the game shows. They won't let you answer the frigging question until it's all been stated. And then you can answer the question. It's like, let us get it out so that everybody's clear. The third one is be attentive if someone has a problem or concern. Obviously, in any kind of courteous situation, someone may be calling you with a concern about something. Give them your attention, listen to what they say, be responsive to that. Well, here's what we can do. The worst thing to say to someone in that circumstance is, I can't help you. I mean, it happens all the time, but if that person has called you and you're the one there to talk to, work with it. Figure out how to respond to what they need. It really, that kind of courtesy and respect means that they have value. And if they're your customer, if they're your client, oh, they do have value. Don't think how they can be easily replaced. It's important to listen and to know. And then the final one is show appreciation, which can be so easy. Showing appreciation, just saying thank you for calling. I'm glad you came to us or came to me instead of just dealing with us on your own. I'm grateful, and people appreciate that. That gratitude thing really does settle things down. And you'll notice nowhere on my list does it ever say you're sorry. I could say more about that, but we don't have that much time tonight. The idea, though, is that these are the things that can help you have that courteous image on the phone, which helps you and your organization build goodwill. Okay, any questions about this one? Okay, let's do face-to-face, people in person. Give a professional and friendly image. In other words, how you present yourself reflects on this other person. And most of you are very nice dressers, so that's not a big issue for us, that we know when we're dealing with people that we want to look our best. If you know anything about the research that's been done around men wearing suits, going into a bank for a loan, or going into a lot of different kinds of organizations or businesses, the man with the suit gets faster and more attention to their needs than the guy that comes in shorts and flip-flops. It's just the way it works. People do it unconsciously. So if you want something, people have asked me for years, why don't I dress down on Sundays? You know, I did that thing where we did the meditation a few weeks ago, and I wore different clothes for that because it was a very different experience. But people say, why don't you dress like that all the time? Why don't you really lighten up a little bit here? And the fact is that I believe that wearing a proper attire, a tie and a suit or a jacket, helps me give the message to you. I think that I have more, I can't think of the word right now, I just have more presence if I'm dressed like that. You know, the meditation, as you all close your eyes, it didn't matter what I had. But when you want something, you want the attention of people, you want to develop that relationship or build that goodwill, how you look really does matter. That doesn't mean that every woman needs to get up first thing in the morning and put on makeup. God, no. But to be clean is important. You know, we're in community here. We do a lot of hugging. People that aren't up on their personal hygiene, it kind of shows up. You know, we've had to have a few little private conversations at times, especially people that are greeting at the door. It's important. It reflects on all of us. And the goodwill of the center is handled by volunteers at the door, first contact. That's so important. And being courteous and being present and handling your stuff is really important in that situation. Maintain eye contact. Don't stare. But look at the person that's talking to you. It really makes a difference. It really does. I remember when I went to Australia and met a man on the streets out in front of the Hilton Hotel. He was just looking at me, and I was not in a good place in my life. I'd run away from home, and I don't want to look at him, but every time I look up, he's looking right at me. And I'd look away, and I'd look back up, and he's looking right at me. And I thought, wow, how do you do that? And what I learned from that work that I did there was that this idea that the eyes are the window to the soul, it has some merit. It really does. If you want people to believe you, if you want people to appreciate you, look them in the eye when they speak to you. And I still deal with a lot of people in my life that don't. They look away. They don't know how to do that. But if you can do it, you're really in charge of everything when you can maintain eye contact, or at least look toward them the whole time and give them your undivided attention. Show the same respect to everyone. That means children, adults, elders, whoever it is. Be respectful with continuity. Doesn't matter who it is. And it doesn't matter on your side of the equation how they're dressed or what they need. You still hold them as the presence of the divine. That's something we have got figured out in this teaching, is that everyone is the presence of the divine. Everyone is a God being. So it doesn't matter what's going on with them. In fact, in counseling in this work, it's always good, no matter what they're saying their problem is, no matter how difficult their life is, to know who they are. And they are in the presence of God. So they're telling you about how screwed up things are and how everything's not working and how they're lost and they don't know what to do. That's God saying all that. And it's all a lie. They just don't know yet that it's a lie. So hold everybody in that sacred space of knowing who they are. Use follow-up communications. In other words, if you promise to do something, or if the other person is going to do something, don't leave it to them to contact you. You contact them. Reach out and say, how did that go? Or this is what I've learned, or this is what we're planning to do now. A lot of times I find, well, and it's kind of inherent in this teaching, that people come to practitioners for treatment, and you sit with a practitioner and they know the truth for you and they speak it and it's clear and it's absolutely real in the mind of the practitioner, and they end the treatment and they separate and go their own ways. Something amazing happens. And they never let the practitioner know. I know, it not feels like being discourteous, but it's more than that. I mean, if you have an interaction with someone, complete it. Tell them what happened. Let them know. And I'm talking about treatments there, but it's true in all circumstances in our lives. I wonder what happened with that thing that Jeff was doing. I don't know. I didn't ever call him to find out. He never called me. Don't leave these loose ends in your life. What that does is that kind of muddles your mind. So let the things that you're doing have a conclusion. This is how it worked out. And if you haven't heard, call and check and see. Or send a text. How did it work out? You know, I love that. So that's what follow-up on communications means. Be willing to go the extra mile for everyone every time. Boy, does that sound like a business's customer service. We'll go the extra mile. Oh, it's cliche, but at the same time, there's something to it. And the stories you hear about someone at a Lord & Taylor can't get that shirt for the guy that needs it for a wedding that he's in, and they go all the way across town to a competitor and buy that shirt for them and take them back. Barbara and I used to really, in our meeting days, love to go to Carrabba's Italian Grill on Tunnel Road. And we knew the owner. He graduated from AV Tech. He was a great guy. And we would talk to him, we'd come in. And one night we came in, or we had been there, and I had pork chops. They were delicious. They were so good. And I said, when I go back to Carrabba's, I want pork chops. So the waiter came over and took our order. I said, give me those 2 pork chops. They're just so good. I don't know what Barbara ordered. I was all about my pork chops. Well, we're waiting for dinner. It's taking a little while. And then the waitress comes by and I said, how are we doing? They got it working on it. Everything's working. And so they brought the food. It was delicious as always. But what I found out was that they had discontinued pork chops at Carrabba's.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that the owner had sent someone down to Outback to get pork chops so they can make them for my dinner. You don't think that created goodwill? Oh my God, where else would I want to eat? That kind of service, that kind of going out of your way? She could have just said to me, oh, we don't have that anymore. But she didn't. She took it to the boss and they made it work. That's good work. That's good work. And it pays off. It creates that goodwill and it doesn't go away. I still have, even though he no longer works or owns that probably he's out in Texas and owns 10 of them or something. But you know, that's still a lovely place to go for that reason. You know? Okay. That's the last one. Where are we going? Practices and develop goodwill. We've done honesty, courtesy, and respectfulness. Remembering faces and names. This one's a pretty easy one, but I can only speak from my own personal experience on this, that when somebody comes through the receiving line on Sunday morning or Sunday right after noon, and I remember their name and it's only their second or third time there, they are so impressed. And when I don't remember their name, it's And you know, sometimes you have to go through a little of that. But the idea of remembering people's names is so valuable. Remembering that they've come before remembering that that's who they are, and you see their face and you go, Jesse, good to see you. I had one happen at the in my yoga class. Have I ever mentioned I take yoga? There was a guy that one day I said, tell me your name again. He said, okay, it's Jeff for the 3rd time. And it was like, oh, I got this name down. And because that's sometimes what it takes, is for me to be a little embarrassed. But I actually woke up in the middle of the night one day during the week going, Jeff, is this Jeff? Which is obsessive, I know, but it's so helpful. It makes them feel at ease, it makes you feel at ease. And you know what? If you screw that up and call them by the wrong name, they get over it. But the idea that you would make the effort means something. So when you see somebody that you've seen before and you've been introduced, if you don't remember the name, it's really fine to ask. It's okay to guess. But if you got their name, you've got it. And you can use that indefinitely. Names somehow stick until membership ends. Yes, Laura?
So, since you and Barbara are so good at that, do you have like a mnemonic device or something?
Barbara's the expert on that. She really is. As far as remembering names, what I've learned to do is follow her lead on find some clever statement about looking at this person and getting who they are. I got Susie tonight. I absolutely got your name, and the reason I got it was I thought of the Susie that we lost last year, and how there was a void in this community, and I just gave that spot to you in my heart. So you're Susie. Yeah.
Susie.
That is powerful.
Yeah, Susie Green. But just, yeah, so that kind of a connection, you create in your mind, you make it up, and it'll work.
So I did that when I was teaching, and I would have a room full of students, and we would go around the room, they would introduce themselves, and then I would have to show off, of course, to go back through the room and call them by their name. I mean, it didn't matter how many people there were. And the trick that I used was, as they were doing the brief little blurb about themselves and how long they'd been with Brookdale, I would say their name back to them every time they said something. Nancy, that's so interesting, Nancy. We're so glad that you've joined the Brookdale
That is
family.
a real technique.
And that's the technique, is just to keep repeating their name back
Right.
as you're
What
talking.
most people do is they hear the person say, my name is, and they're thinking, okay, what's my name? And then you focus on getting your name out, and you didn't really catch their name.
Right.
Because that's performance anxiety. But really, you're absolutely right, Dee. If you say their name back to them, you have a much higher likelihood of remembering it when you see them again. What do you want to say, Jane?
That works with languages too. My husband and I used to travel a lot, and we went to Greece, and we lived in near Washington, and the high school had foreign languages for travelers.
Right.
And we took a course in Greek, and then when we went to Greece, and we went to this hotel, and the hotel manager was so tired of Americans who couldn't even speak his language at all. And so he was saying, he was just saying to everyone, well, in order to get a room in my hotel, you have to, well, anyway, he wouldn't give anyone a room. So what happened is I said, yeah, Courtesies, and he roared with laughter, and he said, you're trying to speak Greek, aren't you?
And you got points forever, right?
So thrilled that an American tourist was trying
Would even try, really. That's
We got
lovely.
the most beautiful room in the hotel, even this particular restaurant.
That's great. That's great. And that obviously developed some goodwill. It turned into a nice room. Good for you. That's lovely. Okay, remembering faces and names. Where are we going? Friendship. Yeah, this is going to be a real conversation. Friendship's an interesting thing for me. I grew up in suburban Miami and was allowed to travel a distance from our home and could have friends within that distance of just several blocks when I was a little guy. I did not have the freedom that Barbara had in her youth, where she could go virtually anywhere at any time and ask for food. And in my world, I had these guys that I knew. They were right on within a block. There were 3 of us in particular that had birthdays on September 1st, September 2nd, and September 3rd. Mine was the 2nd. And so we had these connections, but there wasn't anything in that for me that was so gratifying, that was so wonderful, that made me feel like they were my friends. I'm not sure what that was. I watched others among them have a one-on-one relationship that was definitely a friendship. And mine was more of an acquaintance with all of them. And we would do things, and I even traveled up to Tennessee and North Carolina with one of them on a family vacation. So that was cool, but that was mostly because the guy's other friend wasn't available. So you see that, I think if you watch that, the Big Bang Theory, you know, you can see the hierarchy of friendships. They just make it ridiculous. But truly that happens. So I had an idea of friendship as being someone that I would be there for the rest of my life, no matter what. That's what it took to be my friend. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So I want to look at this idea of friendship and see what we can learn about it that maybe will make it a little more functional for us. Friendship is a very healthy thing. So having friends, we're going to talk about this, is incredibly valuable to us in the work that we want to do in the world. Having friends is a social engagement. So let's see where we're going to go with this. Here are ideas for making and keeping friends. Help yourself stay healthy. It is absolutely proven scientifically that having a strong social network makes you healthier. They've actually done studies that are this crazy. People in their 20s are asked about their level of social engagement with other people. How many friends do you have? If they have a strong cadre of friends when they're 20, they have a much higher likelihood to live to 70. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a health benefit to this thing that we call friendship. And I'm going to get to it right here in a second, just make sure that I've got it. So the idea of staying healthy is real. In having friendships, you have a fuller, richer life and live a healthier one as well. There we go. In your friendships, choose quality over quantity. Some people think they call everybody their friend. And that's bizarre to me. Because you can't have 200 intimate relationships. You just can't do it. In fact, from the studies I've seen, the real number for how many people you can have an authentic, personal, intimate relationship, intimate has nothing to do with sex, it's being honest and open and available to someone, is 10. 10 people. That's your max. So what do you call the rest of these people? Friendship or the word friend is a very casual phrase. This is my friend. I just met him, but he's my friend. So how does that work? And I think it's up to you as how you want to define it, how do you want to use that in your life to say, who holds that place in my heart that I would call them friend to the level that I would get up at 2 in the morning and go meet them wherever to do what they need, whatever they need. You know, that's kind of the stereotypical answer to friendship. But truly friendship is an intimate connection with another person. Many of you would probably say that your best friend is the person you're married to, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think having friendship in a lifetime relationship is the best way to do it. So friendship, but you don't want to limit yourself to that idea of friendship so that it's only your spouse. I know there's a lot of guys that do that, or guys that have only friend relationships with women because they're struggling with the idea of what it means to be a man and how to relate to other men and how not to be somehow lessened by relationships with real men. And a lot of this, of course, falls right back on relationships with parents. So there's all kinds of stuff in that. Yes, you want to say something? Okay. So choosing quality over quantity. That leaves the idea too that you may have some friendships that are not all that healthy. They might actually be a little toxic. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but you know who you are. So what do you do in those circumstances? You've got someone who's depressed or down or struggling or needy or just not fun to be around. Yeah, I can't stop being their friend. They don't have anybody else. Well, doesn't that make you look the fool? Or could you say, I have room in my life for a finite number of these kinds of relationships. I want them to be nurturing and rewarding for me as it is for the other person. Not a bad way to look at it. And that may just be that a person that you discontinue a friendship with because they think you're nuts to come to this center, or any of the other possibilities on being contrary, is no longer working for you. It's okay to say, it's been an interesting experience, I'm moving on. It's okay to say that. So I'm inviting you to do a little inventory in your life and see who you spend your time with. Some people have trouble actually going to that higher level of friendship beyond having an acquaintance. You know, they like to be around lots of people, but they're really not close to any of them. How can you move toward that kind of thing in your life, to where there's something genuine and authentic about what you're bringing to that interconnection with another person? You know, and how do you want to nurture that? That's real work. That's powerful work. It's probably work I'm going to talk about again because I think it may be on the list somewhere else. Outlast life changes. This is the idea that many of us want to keep all of the friends we had from when we were a teenager. But that's not realistic. I don't know if you want that or not, but I think a lot of people have memories back to their youth and think about how wonderful those connections were. All of those connections from when you were young were strong because you lived on the same street. You went to the same school every friggin' day. You probably rode your bikes together, or you walked together, or you sat on the bus together. These are my friends. That's not a strong enough thing to really get it through the idea of you moved to a different city, you got married, you started a career, you went away to college, whatever it was that made that separation. Kind of hard to keep that going. But occasionally, there's one or two in there that might be worth keeping alive. What that takes is you got to do the work. You got to contact them. You got to have a way to communicate with them so that the thing stays alive, or it just dies. And it's not the end of the world if it dies, but if that's important to you, take 100% responsibility for it, which means you make the call, you do the work of whatever it is. And if you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. But there is value in those lifelong friendships because those people have known you longer and have more of a perspective of who you are, maybe than some of the people that you just met. Not that they can't be wonderful friends too. The example that's coming to my mind is Barbara's relationship with her sister. They were not friends when they were young. They were pretty much at each other. A lot of hair pulling and that kind of stuff. And they lived in a very difficult environment. So that added to the problem. Today, I don't know two people that love each other any more than those two. And they're friends. They're sisters, but they're friends. And I think that's the thing that keeps them so engaged with one another. And of course, Barbara went back to work and is working as a nurse at Mayheck. Barbara goes every Tuesday and has lunch with her sister. She comes into Mayheck, they go to a lunchroom, Barbara brings the food, and they have lunch. And those kinds of gestures, those kinds of connections, deepen our connections with the people we do them with. So I'm not saying go out and do this with a bunch of people, but there will be people that you will want to do this with. don't give up. I think we've already talked about that a little bit. If you want to be in a relationship with someone, in a friendship relationship, pursue it. If they don't want to be in a relationship with you, let it go. But if it's important to you and you think there's value in it, a lot of times there are people try to have relationships and they kind of spark and then they fizzle. That's okay. The thing is that you, in those circumstances, you'll learn from what happened and learn what to do differently next time. So there's no right or wrong to it. There's no failure. There's just the idea that if you really want it, stay with it. Stay in community. This was my favorite one. I am always astonished about the relationships that develop in this community. And it's not this is the only place you come. I know that. There are other things you do. You live in neighborhoods. You work in businesses. You do things where you're around other groups of people. But the way this community and the members of it, the friends of it, use this place to create intimate connections with other people is stellar. And I'm not sure we've got the whole market cornered on that, but the health and vitality of our community is based on that interwoven web of connections. When I see people come into the center and run up and hug somebody that I didn't even know they knew, it makes my heart sing. That we have that depth of connection on so many levels. And what that does, again and again we see, is it creates healthy connections that support us. And the idea of letting go of people, as I talked about a few minutes ago, is something that that when we have a place like this with so many resources, with so many possibilities, it makes it easier to let go of things that aren't working anymore. So congratulations to all of you for handling this idea of being in community so very well. Stay connected. Mentioned that as well, the idea that we must take responsibility for connecting with others. You know, some people are good at it, some people aren't. I'm not good at it because I get all caught up in what I'm doing and I don't think about those things. But when I get a call, here's a guy, Ron Fox, Dr. Ron Fox, got his doctorate last year, or earlier this year. Lives in Florida. He was in outside Peoria, Arizona. Was his church before that. Now he's in Florida on the Space Coast. He's got a small but happy community there. The man calls me like once a month. He picked up the phone. It's Ron. Well, of course it's Ron. Of course you're calling. How you doing? And we have that lovely connection. And he never makes me wrong for not calling. He just calls. And we stay connected, and we know what each other's doing. It's quite amazing. It isn't a highly effortful thing. One way to do that, if just remembering a call doesn't work, put it in your calendar. You know, when you get off the phone with somebody, you really had a good talk, put it somewhere else in your calendar and call it again. Because if that was fun, what's going to happen the next time? So the idea of connecting with people and staying connected with people is 100% our responsibility. And at the same time, once it creates some kind of patterning in your life, it kind of happens naturally and it doesn't have to be overplanned. But if you want those kinds of connections in your life, staying connected is one thing that really makes it work. Keep it real. Only with this cadre of people that you're calling your closest friends, be wonderfully honest with them about who you are. And let them love you the way you are. If you have some fears, if you're not clear about something, a friend's a person to take it to. Because generally a friend is someone that will listen. A friend is someone that will not judge you, that will be there for you, and you in turn would do that for someone else. Having those kinds of connections with people is so valuable, so incredibly valuable. And what it's doing in this idea of goodwill is it's creating a better sense for you of who you are and what you bring to the world. You know, many of us bring things to large groups. Many of us bring things to a handful of folks. That's just as valuable and just as important. So keep it real. Stay committed to your relationships. Once you get that relationship going with somebody and you call them your friend and it's real, don't be haphazard with it. Stay with it. Stay committed to being in touch, to sharing ideas and to having that interaction that will deepen who you are. Okay, so I want you all to put your pens down. This is a thing you're gonna do, so close your eyes. What you're gonna do with your fingers, you're just gonna count. I'm gonna read a series of statements. And I want you to add to the count on your fingers based on whether it's yes or not. If it's yes, that's a count. Let's see how many of these are true for you. Could you say, I am trustworthy? Are you trustworthy? Can you be trusted with intimate information, with kindness? Can you be trusted to be there when you're needed? Are you trustworthy? Are you honest with others? Can you say what really needs to be said lovingly, from your heart, when it's not that easy to say? Are you generally dependable? If someone needs your help, are you going to say yes if it's important, even if it's inconvenient? Are you patient with people? People screw up. People miss the mark. Can you be patient with them? Are you trustworthy and easily able to trust others? We did that. We'll do another one. And are you able to be empathetic? Does your heart open up when someone's hurting? Not in a way that you take on their pain, but that you can relate to what they're going through. Do you avoid judging people? When you hear something that you'd rather not know about somebody, can you let it be okay? Are you a good listener? Do you support others, whether they're in good times or bad times, hard times? Are they still your friend either way? Are you a good friend? Do you see yourself as being a good friend in your life? Are you able to see the humor in life? Can you laugh at yourself? And are you fun to be around? Open your eyes. You can know how you did. You don't need to remember the questions. But that's an assessment of how you are as a friend right now. Nobody's wrong, nobody's bad, nobody fails, but everybody has room for improvement. That's the way it works. Okay, number 5, avoid antagonizing people. No, but it's so easy to antagonize people because they're wrong. They're just wrong. So you want to say, hey, you're wrong. I have never found that helpful. Because what is true is that there are people that have very different perspectives than I do. They're entitled to their perspectives. One thing you can say, which Rockenberg taught me, was, that's not true for me. That doesn't make them wrong. They can be there all they want. It's your choice where you are, but that's not true for me, is a gentler way to say that. But being in a way that you're listening, that you're engaged in what a person's saying, even if you disagree with it. Lovely to have conversations that are lively, but making people wrong, I found, doesn't work in life. So consider letting that one go, even in your own mind, that people are wrong. They have a different perspective, and they're entitled, and so are you. Being helpful. That's a friendship thing. Now, there's a distinction between being helpful and intruding on someone's life. So looking at that, you got to have, I know, Barbara, I know. You got to make sure that what you're doing is done by invitation. If someone's going through something, don't jump in and try to fix it. Sometimes people just want to be heard. So this is what we're doing on goodwill and friendship. I have a whole other chapter, a whole other secret to share with you. I will go through this very quickly. Tact is the ability to tell the truth in a way that considers other people's feelings and reactions. It allows you to give difficult feedback, communicate sensitive information, and say the right thing to preserve a relationship. I'm doing this one because Barbara says she has no tact. It was a joke, but that is what she said. Communicating tactfully strengthens your reputation and builds your credibility. It allows you to preserve existing relationships and build new ones. A tactful approach shows character, maturity, professionalism, and integrity. Good thoughts, right? So how do you demonstrate or develop tact? Think before you speak. Don't give the answer until you're clear about it, that this will be helpful. It just won't make you look good. It will help the person you're saying it to. And they want that information. If they don't say it. Determine the appropriate time. An example of this would be you have just been told you're getting a promotion and that the person in the office next to you just got fired. Running into their office and saying, hey, I just got a promotion, probably isn't the best timing or place to do that. So think about who's there, what you're saying, in front of who, before you jump into a conversation that could not be the best for everyone involved. Choose your words carefully, meaning if you're in a place where you're sharing information that's difficult, be gentle. Always be gentle. Always start out with something, if you can, that's positive about that person or that situation, and then tell them the place that you think they have some room to grow. One example would be to tell someone, I'm sure the next time you do one of these kind of presentations, you'll have some more research done on it. That's telling them they get to do another presentation. But it tells them also they didn't do that great and they have to do some work. That's being tactful. Be aware of your body language. Telling someone that you think they're great with your arms crossed is not working. People will read your body language intuitively. So make sure that you're expressing in an open way with this person, whoever it is. Never react emotionally. If you're trying to be tactful, I mean, sometimes I'm not saying don't be emotional, but in moments where you're needing to be tactfully telling someone something, don't get emotionally involved. Be honest with them, be caring, be empathetic, but don't fall apart. Who got something tonight? My work is done. Thank you all very much.
Welcome back. I'm certain that you got something of value out of this class. And now it's time for us to close with one more prosperity treatment. So join me in knowing the truth. I, John, know that God is the source of all supply and that money is God in action. I know that my good is here now. I am so rich and so full that I have an abundance of money to spare and to share today and always. I know that true prosperity includes perfect health, perfect wealth, and perfect happiness. This word which I speak in faith knowing now activates universal law, and I accept the results. I bless all that I have now, and I bless the increase. I bless all the others in the increased income program of our class, and I know that we now prosper together in every way. I give thanks for this good, and so it is. And with that, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again soon.